Is there anything they can do to convince the founders to change the bias?
As a product marketer, I think you just need to use logic.
So, or the other way, right? The king is saying, I'm right, you're wrong. And that's exactly what I also will suggest people.
If let product marketer decide what's needed, let them decide whether that asset is needed or not, making it very difficult for the buyer to trust you. So, it becomes like without you having to train anybody, your website will do all the training for your sales reps. Whatever is without logic, whatever is based on the founder or the team's bias, this just gets eliminated. And what you are left with is your real strong positioning, on which you can then build your messaging and narrative.
Then how are you able to convince the founders to change their initial positioning to whatever you're suggesting, right? So what tips you have for, of course you are a consultant, so generally people listen to consultants, but let's think of let's say a product marketer who's working on the positioning, right? How can a product marketer convince a founder who's actually biased towards his product? Most of the founders that I speak to, they think their product is the best ever made, right? And most of the time I hear that and they're very biased. Okay, so they think in a certain way and they assume also a certain way. So what is your suggestion for product marketers to convince founders? Like, what can they do? Is there anything they can do to convince the founders to change the bias? I know, a very tricky question,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that I'm lucky that, when founders come to me, they come with an open mind. Because they already know that there is some problem, right, that needs to be solved. So when they see that, this is the problem and this is the fix that we need to do, there's an aha moment, right? Oh yes, that's right, But in case where that's not happening, as a product marketer, I think you just need to use logic. Never kind of say that this is wrong. Rather basically embed a seed of doubt into the mind of your founder, saying like for example, there was an API product that I was working for. It was an API, and during the status quo exercise, they said that we compete with these solutions which are not APIs. They were software products. Now, obviously, they were getting leads which are looking for software because they are positioning themselves against a software. Rather, they should be getting leads which are looking for an API because they are not a software. They cannot satisfy those people. So I said that you should stop counting these as your competitors.
Got it.
Don't try to position against them. They were highlighting benefits or qualities which their API has, but those software does not have. No need to do that. Rather, compare what you have versus other APIs don't have. Because your customers are not comparing you against, those. So when just embed a seed of doubt, saying, but then our customers will, compare us with them. And then we'll get customers, who are looking for software and not API. And those are not our best fit customers, right? So use logic, and sometimes it will take time for you to find the right logic to counter the founder, because founders are very strong-headed people. So yeah, it will take time, but keep trying.
I think my answer could have been the same. I mean, like, go back to basics again. Go with do your customer research. Listen to the sales calls. Listen to Gong or whichever recording Fireflies you have, and go with proof, right? Go with actual
and
proof.
The founder only listens to the customer.
Yeah, exactly, right. Go with actual proof, right? So what I mean, product marketing. What I also fail to see with most product marketers is that it's all assumptions, and for me, assumption is the mother of all F's, right? So that is That's typically what marketers also do. Coming back to your example of copywriting creativity, right? So it's not I mean, it's a science, right? I think whatever you explained so far, it's a science. It's not an art. You hypothetically don't think that okay, or somebody wants a product like this, or right. So a lot of the times you have answers, but generally people don't go look for answers, right? So for me, I think if I have a suggestion, whatever you said, same. If as a product marketer, if you have to justify, if you have to say you're wrong, founder, CEO, you're wrong, or at some level, go with the data, go listen to sales calls, go listen to all the recordings, go do interviews with your customers, take that recording, which is actual proof, right? Like proof, it's like producing a proof in front of court, like where you are proving something is wrong. Go with the proof.
Yeah.
Then the founders will, of course, can't say no, because the king is actually saying customer is king. King is actually saying you're you're right, I'm wrong, right? So or the other way, right? The king is saying I'm right, you're wrong, and that's exactly what I also will suggest people. Uh, when I do that, it's typically in my agency also. When I do messaging, I've worked with some companies like Doximo, Edgewo. So they're also, we've taken a lot of effort trying to listen to sales calls, talk to customers, and then we did the entire website messaging, right? So which kind of helped them also go in terms of the conversion drastically improved, like 3-4x. The website conversions drastically improved, which is again the fundamentals, right? I completely am. I agree with what you said. How do you again? How do you measure the success of this? Typically, your engagement when you do the messaging, is it the conversion? Is it like stepwise conversion? Is it like okay, I had an X conversion on the website, now I have Y conversion? I had X, let's say discovery call to demo conversion, now I have Y conversion. How do you measure the success of what you've done for the customer, and how the positioning kind of helped the company, right? So what is your let's say performance metrics?
Yes. So conversions is like a kind of a good metric, but it's not very granular.
Hmm.
So when everything is working fine, your conversions will be good. So yes, there are cases where conversions have increased threefold after redoing the website messaging based on the new positioning, right? The positioning that we worked on. There are cases, and those metrics always help. But there is also also a much more granular level of checking that you should be doing, because in B2B tech, conversions take time. Like the if the higher your ACV, you cannot wait 6 months to check your conversions, whether positioning is working or not. So what I suggest is there are two things. Now, for website messaging, there's something, and then for positioning, there's something. For positioning, I have built a self-assessment tool for founders. This is a tool. It's kind of a quiz of 7 questions where founders can rate their recent sales interactions on 7 parameters. And based on how they rate it, they will get their existing positioning score. Right? And those 7 parameters are the same thing, based on the 7 elements of the positioning. And I have a lot of founders who have taken that quiz. Now, for website messaging, I would suggest you go with something like Winter. Winter is, I'm sure a lot of founders know about it. Yeah, it's a B2B message testing tool. Now, Winter may or may not have your target audience or your ICP in their participant list. In that case, you can conduct this exercise on your own also. Right? There, you need to check your website messaging on 4 or 5 things: clarity, relevance, differentiation, value proposition, and consideration. Now, if on all of these parameters you score high, it means that you have effectively converted your positioning on website and your positioning is working for you.
Okay, so you're now for somebody who doesn't have your parameters, so what would you suggest? uh, any audience that want to measure how the positioning is working for them, any like a general metric that you have, or anything like anybody can use kind of a metric?
I would not suggest a general metric. I would suggest, looking at the 7 elements of positioning. So I'll give you an example. A simple thing, very simple thing is category. A lot of B2B startups are have a very vague category definition. You know, uh, look at your sales interactions, your prospects, and see in which category are they assuming you fit in. Is this category correctly representing your solution at all or not? For example, I'm a positioning specialist, and if in most of my sales calls people are asking me to write blogs or do social media content, then there's a problem with my positioning because my category is not of a content writer.
Correct.
The category is something else. So if in your sales interactions, this is kind of a litmus test, you can say. There are 6 other elements that you can test on, go deeper. But this is the kind of a handy way. Like at least a category has to be crystal clear where you fit in.
Got it. Okay. So overall, especially when it comes to, let's say, in marketing, right? So you have demand, you have brand, you have like product marketing, marketing of different functions, right? There's always a challenge when it's product marketing. People don't know how to measure product marketing work, right? Which actually we talked about, positioning, we talked about narrative, we talked about sales decks, enablement, all of that. Right? So, what suggestions do you have for founders who's trying to measure product marketing, compare it with demand gen, saying, "Oh, demand created X amount of deals or X amount of pipeline or X amount of MQLs," versus product marketing, which doesn't directly impact revenue, but it does impact revenue a lot for me as long as I'm concerned, because everything that you touch during demand interaction, I believe at some point product marketing's job is to create that narrative messaging, the copy, right? So what is the suggestion that you have for founders who's looking at product marketing like a support function, not like a revenue function, right? So how do you think they should look at?
Right. That's a very good question. So I come from, like, my first job was at Zycus. And Zycus is a company where every single person has a KRA at a very granular level. I mean, I think even a admin guy there would have a KRA. So support, non-support, irrespective of how you consider, every job should needs a KRA. And in case of product marketing, I'll tell you how, like, I have seen it happen and it works. Let everybody own a KRA of the revenue. Let everybody own a KRA of every stage that a prospect kind of crosses, right? Lead to opportunity conversion rate, opportunity to maybe shortlist conversion rate, shortlist to closed one conversion rate. Measure these things. In CRM today, it's so easy. Just create fields and run a calculation. And let your product marketing person own all these things. Let them be answerable for these things. And then when they say that this is not working, listen to them. Right? A lot of founders don't give KRAs to their team members because they also don't listen to them. It's like there's no point, giving somebody a KRA if you don't give them ownership. Right? Both things have to happen. And yeah, I would say a product marketing team should own conversion KRAs. Every stage conversions. In B2B tech, there are so many stages. You need to know at every stage how the conversion is and what's working, what's not working. Sometimes the problem is not with positioning, it's with pricing. Like your pricing is, the way it's structured, it's too complex or too scary for the buyer sometimes.
which
That's
which
what
will
you
only which will only happen if you again go back to basics, right? So the fundamentals has to be right and the basics has to be right for you to, as a product marketing function, to own the KRAs. They have to be part of every touch point and be actively listening to sales calls and looking at the conversion from a, let's say, a discovery call or a like an AE call point of view, in terms of how many collaterals have been shared and how many has been opened, which you of course have high spot seismic and tools like that, which will actually tell you how people are engaging with your collaterals, right? And I think also on the touch point of landing page to the form fill, how is the form fill? Like you said, having a plain form fill instead of having a plain form fill, you have a positioning and messaging. So that is all, like you're saying, all of this is important for a product marketing and measure them based on these touch points also, right?
Yeah, there is a risk, however, in measuring just the output. For example, you said it very rightly. A lot of people think product marketing is just a asset creating function, and what they do is that they'll just keep giving product marketing a list of assets. आज ये बना के दो, कल वो बना के दो.
Yeah.
But if let product marketer decide what's needed, let them decide whether that asset is needed or not. Let them decide, instead of this asset, what should have been sent. Like maybe they will come up with a solution that if this particular section was there on our website, then not every prospect will ask for this asset.
Right.
So let them be a part of your entire sales cycle as enablers and as people who own the revenue and the conversion KRAs along with your sales reps. I think product marketers are the sales reps' best friends. The companies that I've worked with, the companies that grow, that do really well, the product marketers are shadowing sales reps and shadowing every deal. Like tigers, they prey on, their marine hunting. So that's how it needs to work.
My
And
previous,
sales reps should listen to product marketers also.
Yeah, my previous
Like,
call, the previous recording with Varun also, he also kind of said the same thing, that take revenue target and be friends with sales, that you can shadow and help them out close more deals by doing everything possible, right? Which is talk about use case, talk about give them documents on multiple use cases, understand the customers, understand the company, like what problems, build a use case based on, like, with an enterprise deal you can even spend time building a use case document very specific to the company and very specific to the persona's problem, right? Yeah, great. So I want to talk about one important thing. 99% of the companies or websites or messaging that I see, even the text that I see, right? So they talk about features a lot, and even the messages that I get, 99% of them is only features, like I'm XYZ, I have so much of customers, like this is my future, I offer so much of these services, I offer these products, these features and stuff, right? So what is your suggestion for people who focus a lot on features? Like, how do they, and we all know as marketers that that's not the way to sell, right? You don't sell features, right? You sell at some level you sell outcome, and you also have to probably bring out the problem and the solution, right? Not talk about features. So what is your experience on, like, something like that, where somebody has talked a lot about features, and how have you convinced them to shift towards outcome driven or solution driven kind of messaging, and what's your take on that?
So this is a very controversial topic. There are people on the two ends of spectrum here. There are people who believe that feature is the way to go. There are people who believe that outcomes and value is the way to go. The thing that has worked for me, in the projects that I've done for my clients, is that, like, you have to see feature and outcome like a continuum. Let's say a feature is NLP capability. Let's say that's a feature. Now, what does that feature enable? let's say it enables, okay, you being able to read your contracts without actually manually reading it. It tells you what's wrong with your contract. That's a capability. How does it, what does it, how does it help the outcome? Well, it helps you spot risks, contract risks, and so you can take action quicker. And it also, like, saves time, so you can sign contracts faster. Now, most people are doing messaging either on the feature end or on the outcome end. So your email, they're sending emails just saying, CLM with NLP capabilities. We have a CLM with NLP capabilities. They're doing that, or they're saying, review contracts faster, save time while reviewing contracts, XYZ. So what is happening is that in both of these scenarios, the buyer has to do the connection. So the buyer has to listen to the feature and understand or interpret what can be the outcome of this feature, which is very tough for a buyer who has 100 emails to check and doesn't know what you're saying. Right now, if you're doing as the outcome level of messaging, where you're directly saying save time, review faster, etc., you are you are you're basically making it very difficult for the buyer to trust you. So the buyer has to believe that claim to be able to be interested in knowing how you do it. And that claim is very vague. So review contracts faster can be also done by hiring 20 people. It can also be done by maybe writing shorter contracts, or whatever. But but if you talk about the capabilities, if you make the connection, is saying ki use NLP capability to spot clause level risks in your contract without manually reading every word.
That's a bitch.
Yeah. Now it may be longer than NLP or save time. It is longer. Yes. And you can think of ways to make it crisper. But the point is that tell them, say the full thing, say the full story. Because B2B tech buyers are not watching a movie that, trailer de denge, or they will then come searching for the and like
full
sit through the
entire they look for the full movie.
Yeah. So tell them the main thing, and then if they are interested, if it makes sense for them, they will, there will be a higher chance of them taking the discussion forward.
So we'll probably have like really quick questions now. So what is the biggest misconception B2B founders have about product positioning? Any?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that they think how it works. They think they know how it works. Most founders think they know positioning how it works. It's just they just need a writer who can write it effectively.
I was expecting that answer. Content writers who I can hire for 400 rupees an hour, 500 rupees an hour to write the website copy.
I'll tell you, there are founders who have hired American agencies to do positioning for $200,000.
Yeah, I know. I personally have worked with few companies who has hired actually companies paid $200,000, and they come back and cry about it, and sometimes it happens, and sometimes like you said, people have paid 200,000 also, and people who wants to, again, misconception is like I can hire any freelance content writer to write my website copy or positioning at 500 rupees an hour or 1,000 rupees an hour is something. Again, I've seen that happen. Got it. So, one underutilized tactic you recommend for crafting a stronger website copy for B2B SaaS can be a framework, could be anything that you want to suggest.
Yeah, so there's this very interesting, very easy to use tactic.
Mm-hmm.
It says that when you're writing your headlines, write it in such a way that it completes the sentence, now you can. So let's say if your headline is the most powerful HR solution, and does it complete now you can? Now you can, the most powerful HR solution doesn't make sense, right? Uh, Instead, if you say, like, now you can recruit candidates faster through WhatsApp, let's say, now it completes that sentence. So write your headlines in a way that it completes now you can blank to make them more powerful.
You mean now you can at the end or now you can at the start?
So now you can is invisible here. But if you put your headline after now you can, it should make sense.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So one, if you can give me give the audience one piece of advice, for companies, B2B SaaS companies struggling with website messaging, what would that be?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think like you have to just fix your positioning. The website message will literally, the website will write itself. Like, it's like, जब आपको पता है कि आपको क्या कहना है, then, there are, it just takes 1 hour for you to write the entire website copy or your content writer. It should be crystal clear of what you want to say, and that's what will come through a positioning exercise. So fix your positioning if you want to do better website messaging.
And you've talked about a couple of books. I want you to refer one more book, which is a must read. Just one book. It's a must read for anybody who's thinking about product positioning or narrative or anything.
Yeah, there are a lot of books. In fact, I am writing one at the moment. I love April Dunford's obviously awesome positioning book. I also have talked about the Challenger framework. There is also a little offbeat book that I read called Sell Like Crazy. This is a book that talks more about how to, basically it's on demand generation, but it applies positioning principles even to demand generation very well. And it talks about like how you apply it on PPC, how you apply it on emails, on Google PPC, on landing pages. So it's a very resourceful book.
Yeah. What is? I just have one final question. Typical challenges you faced while doing this for B2B SaaS companies?
The positioning projects, typical challenges?
Yes.
Yeah. See, one of the biggest challenges, not having everybody on the same page. So sometimes what happens is the product head is not convinced that this should be done. Sometimes the sales head is not convinced that this should be done. There are internal differences. One person agrees, but that's not going to help with positioning. Everybody has to agree.
Got it.
The second challenge that I face is positioning, doesn't kind of get translated effectively on the messaging. It stays on a piece of paper. It's the plan does not get executed. So you need like people who will who will go an extra mile, make sure that everything in your website copies, your ads, everything is talking that positioning narrative, taking that forward, following through on it. That's another challenge.
Do you think the most of the companies that work with you, is it on papers? do they really execute? Do they integrate?
That is the main reason why in my positioning projects, I end with the website message. I do not leave it at positioning.
Got it.
The two main positioning assets, website pages and sales text. I believe that if these two are sorted, then everything else falls in line, because everybody else refers to your website, refers to your sales collaterals to get a sale. Even your content writers, when they're writing, they'll look at your website. Even if you forget to brief them, बोल दिया कि कुछ भी लिख दो गूगल से रिसर्च करके, वेबसाइट तो देखेंगे. So it becomes like without you having to train anybody, your website will do all the training for your sales reps.
Got it. So the website is is a different story altogether, right? So it takes like unlimited time to redo a website, or I don't know how you.
I think founders just overkill it. They just do a overkill because they get lost in the design and the development and whatnot. It should be as easy to redo as a Word document.
Yeah, marketers here who's seeing this probably will relate to it. So I'm not going to talk about website. That's a different, getting a revamping of a website is a different story for marketers altogether. 99% of the time, it's a never-ending story, right? It happens like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it'll still continue to,
and then the time for the next revamp comes. By the time,
time for the next revamp comes. Yeah, absolutely. So not touching that. But I think with this, we've almost come to the end of the episode. So thanks a lot. It was wonderful talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation. Learned a lot about positioning. Good books for me to read. So I start reading some books, and I kind of end it halfway. So I'm that person. I just don't end books, but I still want to read some of those books that you mentioned about. At least like keep it in my collections, right? And it was wonderful. Again, great information for anybody who's looking to become an expert, to product marketing. I'm strongly believe that whatever you said makes a lot of sense. It is going back to basics that will help you to kind of consolidate whatever you said. Do customer research, talk to customers, ask open-ended questions, and do the interview as if you're doing a documentary, right? Listen to sales calls, listen to gong recordings, right? Listen to what customers are saying, listen to what prospects are saying, right? And then think about how do you want to do the positioning, right? And to think about, you said comparisons, and to think about, you said 7 steps of doing the product positioning, and then now you can, right? All of that, I'm pretty sure that definitely help my audience and also for me. Wonderful having you. It's a very short time, and you were gracious enough to join the call in a couple of weeks, and you kind of did the entire recording in less than a couple of weeks, which doesn't happen most of the time. But thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it. I would love for you to keep in touch with me as a fellow marketer. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thanks everyone for watching this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, and please subscribe. Thank you.